Welcome back, rock stars, to yet another episode of From the Vault. Ricky Rock's coming at you with the retro action figure review, retro inspired sometimes. You know, they're my rules. I can break them if I want to. I'm always telling you guys that. So recently we've been doing a lot of DC stuff, and people tell me they love that. So it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Why not lean into that? We've been talking a lot about Superman stuff the last couple episodes, Superman and Superman related figures. We talked about stuff from DC Direct and Mattel. We talked about Superman. We talked about Power Girl. We talked about Lex Luthor. Today we're going to shift gears a little bit and we're going to talk about Batman, my second favorite DC character of all time, The Dark Knight, and specifically we're going to be talking about a very interesting figure by my estimation. We're going to be talking about Batman Arkham City, Batman Silver Age variant. Very interesting figure. Now, to capitalize on the release of the Arkham City video game in 2011, Mattel put out a line of figures to coincide with that game, representing the characters as they looked in that video game. Now, Batman obviously was the main figure, but parallel to that, DC had released a line of figures, a subline, Batman Legacy Edition, which recreated Batman in some of his iconic looks from his first appearance through the Golden Age, and not just Batman, but Catwoman, Joker, a few other classic characters were seen in some of their iconic looks through the Legacy Edition subline of Mattel Batman action figures. Now, here, what they've chosen to do was combine the armored look of the video game with the iconic Silver Age look of the character, the costume that he wore, essentially the costume he wore from 1964 through about 1995, when it was retired for good in favor of the all-black and later gray and black costumes. But so this is interesting because it's like a subline within a subline. You've got a Legacy Edition spin-off of the Arkham City line of Mattel figures. To me, that's very interesting. And I got this figure a couple of years ago at Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore, Englishtown Flea Market, Englishtown, New Jersey. They don't just have wrestling figures and merchandise there. They have all kinds of figures and merch, comics, toys, statues, books and board games from DC, Marvel, McFarlane, everything and everything. Japanese stuff, kaiju stuff. Definitely check them out. If you're in the Englishtown area, definitely check them out Saturdays and Sundays. Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore, Blue Building, and they have an eBay store as well. Check them out there. Like I said, I picked this guy up a couple of years ago, and I've just been holding on to it for the right moment, and finally I figured, I've been talking about DC so much lately, why not jump over and finally talk a little bit more in depth about Batman. Now, if you saw my Hasbro DC Superheroes action figure review where I talked about the whole line, you'll know that I was not a big fan of that Batman figure. And it kind of bothers me that that was the first Batman figure that I reviewed on this channel because I just wasn't a fan of it. It was poorly designed and executed. So this is kind of going to make up for that. I wanted to, since this is the first review I'm doing of a Batman figure alone and by itself, I wanted to purposely review a much, much better figure, kind of make up for the misfire that Hasbro gave us and I talked about in the other review. So yeah, here we've got a really interesting mashup of the modern armor look with the classic Silver Age look. I really dig it. The packaging is really cool because it recreates all the black and white artwork that was advertising the game, that appeared on the strategy guide, the cover of the game itself. They really were pushing that black and white motif and really do a great job showing off Batman and Catwoman, who were heavily advertised in the marketing of the game because you could play as either of them in the game, which was very cool. On the back, they show off the figures in the proper Arkham City line while talking about the Legacy Edition subline. Now, I have a few figures from the Legacy Edition subline, like Catwoman, Joker, First Appearance Batman, Golden Age Batman. We're going to talk about all of those figures very soon. I wanted to start with this one on purpose because this is ultimately this look. Not necessarily this figure because it's a little bit modernized and armorized and all of that good stuff, but this look of Batman is always and forever how I predominantly see the character. And I know that's true for a lot of people, kids and adults. I mean, an entire generation or two grew up with Batman wearing the blue and gray with the big yellow oval bat on his chest. A lot of people. There's no getting around it. From 1964 to 1995 or so, this is what Batman looked like. Sometimes the blue would be a little darker, or the ears would be longer or shorter, or the belt would change. And we're actually going to talk about some of that as we talk about this figure. But the deal is that this is what Batman looked like for a very long time, with very little deviation. And this is a more modern take on it. What I assume is that because the first actual figure in the Mattel DC Universe Classics line was a proper Silver Age Batman, I figure since that figure had already been released, for the Legacy Edition subline, they figured to get this look out there, they would do a modern version of it using the Arkham City aesthetic to kind of kill two birds with one stone. I think it's very creative. We'll talk about that. We're going to get hands-on with this figure. Got a little dent in the plastic. I'm pretty sure that's from the way it's been in storage for 2 years. I did that, I'm sure. Because I'm going to open all this stuff anyway. That's what I do. I get them sometimes like that, where they're creased and bumped just because I don't care. I'm going to take them out, and I'm going to show them off for you guys. Because some of you guys like to sit on your stuff and let it rot in the plastic. But I like to take it out. And I like to move it around and really, really appreciate it the way it's meant to be appreciated. So we're going to do that. But yeah, I definitely got to get these other figures. I don't have any of them yet, but I'm a big fan of the way the characters looked in the game. That Two-Face is really awesome. Of course, I'm going to get the Batman, Joker. The Robin's okay. It's kind of in between. It's definitely a good, it's definitely a good updated look on the Tim Drake outfit, but I was never super about it. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I like the way it looks in the comics better. That's all. You know me. I'm kind of purist like that. But yeah, so we're gonna come back in just a moment. We're gonna take this guy out of the package. Finally, I've been waiting 2 years for this, and we're gonna get really up close on the Silver Age modernized version of the Dark Knight himself, the one and only Batman. Stick around. And here he is, the one and only Dark Knight Detective, Batman. Arkham City style with the Silver Age look. To me, that is fantastic. Now, as you can see, it is not technically the Silver Age Batman costume. It is simply a repaint or reskin of the way he looked in the very popular Arkham City video game. But I think it's a really great look, a really great mashup, and it shows you how well that classic design can be put over a modern texture and still look great. Again, there are a few inconsistencies. The Silver Age Batman, his belt typically had capsules, not pouches. It had a different buckle. It's definitely more armored than the original suit would have been, because it's done in the 2011 style, which is very much its own thing. But you know, I love how the classic blue and gray with the long flowing cape, I love how they were able to modernize such a classic look. Like I said, for over 20 years, that color scheme, the bright yellow oval bat, that was how Batman looked to an entire generation or two of fans. And you know, that black masking over the face with the eyebrows, I mean, that just really nails that iconic Silver Age look. For the longest time, there weren't really a ton of action figures with this look, and like I said, DC Direct had done it, but Mattel, their first DC Universe Classics figure was actually the authentic Silver Age Batman as he appeared in the comics. I guess that's why with this Legacy Edition version, they decided to use that color scheme over the modernized Arkham City suit. Now, I think it's just fantastic. I think it's a great old and new mashup. I think it works great. I think the colors are great. I think the detailing is great. The sculpting of the armor all over, fantastic. The armor itself, the gauntlets, the boots, it all works really, really well. And having the classic colors laid over it, it just really, really pops to me. Really interesting figure. When I play the games, I usually do like to use the classic Silver Age costume, so I'm really glad they made this figure to kind of pay homage both to the Silver Age Batman comics as well as one of the best Batman video games ever made, Arkham City. So it's the best of both worlds right here. Gotta love this figure. So here we have it, Mattel Arkham City Legendary Edition Batman Silver Age style. Gotta say, I love everything about it, and after finally taking it out of the package, after having it sit for 2 years, I gotta say, I love it even more. The look of the figure, like I said, the Silver Age aesthetic, skinned over the modern armor look, really looks great, really works a lot better than you think. If you squint, it looks just like the old comic books. They managed to articulate or incorporate the articulation very well into the seams of the armor. The articulation on Mattel's DC figures is always great. I've been working with them a lot recently to do some custom figures. Watch out for that pretty soon. We're going to be coming back around to the custom corner, talking a little bit more about some of the custom projects. So we will be taking a look at some of those custom projects, but I have been working with a lot of Mattel DC Universe Classics figures recently, and they are a blast to work with, and as I'm working with them, I can't help but marvel at the articulation and how much they were able to put together and get out of these figures. So, not only does this Batman figure look great, it moves great. You got a lot of movement in the head, feels really smooth, up and down, 360, swivel, really great with that. Shoulders, you got pretty much 360, the cape kind of limits it a little bit. The articulation is only limited very slightly by the armor itself, but you get a really wide lateral range of motion, which is really great. A lot of abduction there. Like you can totally get a lot of movement out of the shoulders, which is really great. You got the bicep swivel, like a lot of them do. The elbow joint is restricted by the glove gauntlets, the armor there. See, like a lot of action figures that wear armor, gets in the way a little bit of the movement. So you don't get a lot of bend at the elbow because of the glove. And you do have wrist articulation there, the swivel there, very cool. You do have a torso ab crunch, but I gotta say, mine out of the box, I can't get it to crunch. I think, it's been sitting for so long, if I heat it up a little bit, that'll probably fix that. But for now, I can't get that to move, but I'm not too worried about it. The waist, you got the waist swivel. It's a little stiff also. I had to kind of force that getting it out of the box, but everything else is really good. And the belt limits the leg movement back and forth. You can't really get a lot out of it because the belt keeps it from moving too much. And you got a pretty good knee joint there. You got the seam right there in the middle of the thigh. You got the ankle rockers there. And like a lot of the DC. It's pretty much a DC Universe Classics figure with different sculpting to represent the Arkham City look, but they're put together pretty much the same with much of the same articulation. That armor does limit some of the articulation though, but it's still a great looking and great moving figure. it's lighter than you expect it to be. It feels lighter. It doesn't feel as heavy as you might expect. A lot of figures with big capes like that are made of sort of a heavier rubberized plastic material. This one feels very light. It doesn't weigh the figure down at all. It doesn't really off balance it too much. That's always a concern with figures like this. When I talked about the DC Direct Superman from History of the DC Universe a couple episodes ago, I talked about how that huge rubber cape of his totally made the figure back heavy, made it hard to pose. Not a problem with this figure, especially because it has ankle rockers, so you're able to balance the figure pretty well, even with that big wide cape, which I think looks awesome. Very, very cool, very Silver Age. Like I said, this figure does a fantastic job of mixing old school with the new school. You got I think the face and the head is perfect. Really, absolutely perfect. The one thing about the video games is they totally nailed what Batman looked like, especially the head and the face. So yeah, this head is a really great representation of Batman. The ears are like the perfect length. I love how they did the mask right out of the Silver Age with the black shadow over the face with the eyebrows. I think the logo is perfect. I think it's the perfect size. Everything about that looks great. Like I said, the modern touches don't necessarily drag it down at all. I mean, they accentuate it for sure, but in ways of articulation and looks, in some ways they kind of hold it back. Like I said, because of the armor on the gloves, you don't get to really move the arms as much as you otherwise could. But you do still get a lot of articulation, regardless of that. You just got to kind of play with it a little bit to get it to stand up properly. Just because of the cape, but you can do it, as you can see. Cape itself, it's got some slight discoloration on it because it was sitting in the package for so long. That's what happens when you don't open your figures. The backing cardboard sometimes can rub off on them and you get a little bit of light discoloration. But it's fine. It doesn't really bother me so much. I don't think I'm going to really do anything about it. It's fine. As I said, the belt is not the kind of belt Batman actually wore in the Silver Age. He wore a belt that had capsules, not pouches, but in the TV show he actually had pouches. So you could make the case that they were leaning more into that look. If you wanted to, you could say that. It's fine. But yeah, like I said, this is a really fantastic mashup of a classic look with a more modern detail, and really love it, everything about it. I was a huge fan of the games. I played the entire Arkham series in storyline order from Origins to Arkham Asylum to Arkham City to Arkham Knight. A couple years ago I did that for like 3 months. I beat all of them like 2 or 3 times just to like get all the achievements and everything, and that was some of the most fun I ever had in my life playing video games. So I'm a huge fan of that series. I know some parts of it got a lot of criticism. I don't know what you're talking about. Those games are fantastic. All of it. Love everything about those games. Nothing wrong with them at all. Suck a butt. And these figures were a really great representation of those characters. Finally getting this Batman figure out of the package, getting my hands on him, really makes me want to get those other figures. I want to get the regular Batman. I want to get the Two-Face. I want to get all of them right away. The Joker figure as soon as possible, because I really love the way this guy looks, moves. Not necessarily stands, but I'm not doing a good job of it. It's not the figure, it's me. I'm trying to hold it and move it at the same time. There it is. I'm just messing up. There it is for you. Like I said, this is a great figure. The more I look at it, the more I like it. And I liked it plenty already. I mean, it's even got that, the cowl goes over the cape. That's how it's supposed to look, folks. The cowl goes over the cape, not the cape over the cowl. I know it's a little thing, but I'll die on that hill. That's how it's supposed to look. That's one thing, again, that from the Silver Age into the Modern Age, they did a great job of recreating all the little details. Like I said, if you squint and you try not to notice the armor look of it, the way the lines fall and everything like that, it really does recreate Silver Age Batman almost perfectly. I mean, for a lot of us, this is pretty much what Batman looks like in your imagination if you're of a certain age in a certain era. DC Universe Classics Batman, first figure they put out was the authentic comic book Silver Age Batman, and I am going to talk about that figure very soon, sooner probably than later, because I really want to get more Batman stuff. I've talked a lot about Superman, I've talked about wrestling, but I haven't talked a lot about Batman yet. But I promise you we will. I promise you we will, because the Legacy Edition figures are definitely something worth talking about. Not all of them are perfect either. We're going to talk about that, but this one, man, like I said, really, really great job. Perfect job of meshing together old school and new school. And that's what we're all about here. That's what I'm always talking about doing, and I think it doesn't get any better represented than this figure right here. I got this at Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore, Englishtown Flea Market for about $15. I'm not sure what it's going for exactly online right now, but I remember looking for it not too long ago, and it wasn't much more than that. This figure is pretty easy to get, and it's not expensive yet. It's a great figure to add to your collection, especially if you're old school like me, but you appreciate stuff with the new school flair. If you loved the video games, if you love the comic books, and if you love Silver Age Batman up through the 90s, the Bronze Age. Like I said, when I grew up reading comics in the 80s and early 90s, this is what Batman looked like. This is what he looked like on the cartoons. I know the movie in '89 changed it for a lot of people, but for a lot of us, we hung on to this kind of look as hard as we could, for as long as we could. And even when I was a kid, when I would dress up as Batman, it was always this Batman. It was never Michael Keaton Batman. Just wasn't into it as much. So having figures like this, at this scale, with this kind of articulation, really, really makes me excited, because it's everything I would have wanted as a kid when all I wanted was a Batman figure that looked like this, and you couldn't get them, or if you did, they weren't that good necessarily. So to me, this figure is a real dream come true, because it pays such great homage to two different eras uniquely in its own way. I love it. This is as close to a perfect Batman figure as it gets. Can't say enough good things about it. I know I say that a lot about a lot of things, but I get so excited for this kind of stuff when it's so good like this and it's so perfect. People sometimes ask me, is there things that don't get you that excited? It's like, if it doesn't get me that excited, I'm not going to buy it, so I don't have it, so I wouldn't review it. It just makes sense to me, I'm not doing it just to do it. I'm doing it out of love. I get this kind of stuff because I love it. I want to share it with all you people out there who maybe haven't gotten this stuff. Maybe you want to get stuff, but you're not sure what to look at or where you should start. Well, if you don't have a Batman figure and you're a Mattel fan, this would be a great place to start. It's old, and it's modern, and it's retro, and it's classic, and it's timeless, and it's all of those things at once. It's everything I love about Batman, and it's everything I love about Mattel, and it's everything I love about their DC figures, man. And it's everything I loved about that era of Batman, and they totally brought it in to the 21st century in a really, really good way. I will say that I really liked the Batman suits in the first couple games better than the ones in Arkham Knight, because I thought Arkham Knight, it just got a little too armorized by that point, and I really like a more seamless classic look. I grew up with the tights, and that was it. But like I said, this really does it justice both ways. Can't do much better. Definitely pick this figure up if you haven't already. I mean, dude, highest possible recommendation. So glad that this was the first Mattel figure of Batman that I decided to look at. More than makes up, I think, for that crappy one that I looked at when I did the Hasbro DC Superheroes review. Sorry, man, it's just that figure was traumatizing. But this guy more than makes up for it, in my opinion. This is everything you think about when you think about Batman of the 80s, 70s, 60s, all the way back to the 60s, but the 80s and early 90s as well. Up through Nightfall, this was it. and taking it into the 21st century. Really great idea of Mattel to do this figure. Having it both ways. Can't say enough. Definitely pick it up. Highest possible recommendation. I can't really say much more about it. Everything from the color, to the sculpt, to the articulation, to the detail, to the paint. I mean, like I said, there's a little rub off from being in the package for, over a decade. That's the price you pay sometimes. But other than that, this figure is perfect. I just do a bad job of standing them up. It's not the figure. It's totally me. Because I can't see what I'm doing because of the cape. If I had X-ray vision, I'd be able to do a lot better with this. I'm also killing time. I don't want to say goodbye. I wanted to do another episode, but somebody else said no. We're going to maybe cut that or leave it in. I don't know. But either way, what else can you say? I finally got him standing up. And on that note, before he falls over or something, we should probably take it home. I don't know. What else can you say? We're going to be doing a lot more Batman. That I promise you. We're going to be talking about Batman. We're going to be talking about Robin. We're going to be talking about the villains. We're going to be talking about stuff from the movies. We're going to be talking about stuff from the comics. We're going to be talking about stuff from the video games. We're going to be talking about stuff from the 40s to the 60s to the 90s up to now. As long as it's retro, you know I'm into it, baby. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. You're going to be so excited to see some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. We might even have some custom stuff to look at. If you're really, really good, maybe I'll reward you with some of that stuff. But until then, this is Ricky Rocks from the Vault, Retro Action Figure Review. We're going to catch you next time, sooner than you think. Thanks so much for hanging out. Like it, share it, subscribe, comment on it, please. I want to know what you think. But until then, we're going to see you soon. Be good, or be bad, or be Batman. Why not? I wish I was Batman.